Hey moms, welcome to the Mom Mindset Show where we talk all things mom life from A to Z. I'm your host, Rachel Benson. I'm a wife, a mom of 6, a grandma of 7, a real estate agent, and a life coach for moms. I've been through every age and stage of motherhood, and I've never met one I didn't like. I've also never met one that didn't come with its share of challenges and personal growth. As moms, we set the mood and tone of the home. We're the emotional support and the cheerleaders for everyone in the house, not to mention the cook, the chauffeur, and the housekeeper. There's a lot to know and do, and that's what I'm here to help with. I want to help you create the home and family life of your dreams, and I do that not only by helping you with the skill set, but more importantly, the mindset that can really help you succeed as a mom. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about what's on your mind today. Hey, mom friends. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I hope that you are settling into fall. I don't know when you'll listen to this, but as of the time I'm recording this, it's September of 2023 and fall is well underway. And today I am having a perfect fall day, and I hope you are too, because those are just the best days ever when you're in between the blistering heat and the freezing cold that's at least is coming our way. I guess it depends on where you live, but eating outside is so fun. There's so many awesome things about this time of year. Pumpkin patches are the cutest things. If you have little kids, I just went to one with my grandkids the other day. It was fabulous. I love the pictures from pumpkin patches, even from when my kids were little. They're just the most darling pictures, pumpkin patches and swimming pools. So make sure you get your kids around some pumpkins and get some cute pictures this fall. And a beautiful fall day like this is the perfect kind of day for what I want to talk to you about today. Because what I want to talk to you about today is similar to something I talked about a few podcasts ago, which was like creating more joy. But I want to add on to that. I want to talk more about how you can intentionally and purposefully create more happiness and joy in your life. Like all of us have our share of, our stress and frustration and overwhelm and anxiety and irritation and exhaustion and all those emotions. And that's fine. That's how life is. And, learning to overcome that is a lot of life's journey. And you may not ever think I experience those things, because a lot of what I talk about here on the podcast is more geared towards positive emotions and like creating the life that you want on purpose. But I do. I'm just like everyone else, and life is really pretty 50-50. But I also know a lot about how to create the emotional experience that I do want in my life. And I think this is something that not that many people are talking about or focusing on, because there's a lot of focus on like overcoming anxiety and shame and stuff like that in the world of self-help. But I want to start a movement that helps us all experience more joy just in daily life, and then in, the more special occasion types of things like going on vacation and Christmas time, which is coming up. So I have sort of a new mindset technique that I've been working on that I wanted to share with you. And I just want to tell you real quick how the sort of inspiration for this idea came to me. A few weeks ago, I went to a life coach school mastermind event in Dallas. And one of the speakers, well, let me back up and explain. The theme of the mastermind was Feel Harder, which is a very Brooke Castillo way. Brooke Castillo is the founder of the Life Coach School. Feel Harder is a very Brooke way to say we are going to talk all about our emotions and the huge range of human emotions. And there was a lot on like emotional regulation and lots of amazing presentations on all angles regarding our feelings. But the one that caught my attention the fastest was one on joy. There was a presentation called The Capacity for Joy by Courtney Delgado, who works at the Life Coach School. And that caught my attention really fast. And some of the things that she talked about, she had like 3 main points. And some of them I've already kind of covered here in my own way. But her third point really got me, because I was like, ooh, I never thought of this way. So hear me out. So her first couple of points were like how we can experience joy when we just sort of appreciate the journey of life. And instead of just focusing on like finishing a marathon was one of the things she was talking about, like appreciate the training and all the steps along the way, because the energy you bring to that training or whatever it is that you're working on is the energy you're going to bring when race day comes and the finish line, you cross the finish line. So that kind of idea of looking for the good in life and in like the experiences along the way to a goal or something like that, instead of just focusing on the end goal and the idea that I'll be happy when I accomplish this. So that was one of her points. The next one was notice your joy and name it. And I've talked about that before. I like to separate, like differentiate all my emotions and name them really specifically. So she kind of called all positive emotions joy, but I would talk about happiness and joy and fulfillment and satisfaction and pride and wonder and love. Like I like to name all my emotions specifically and kind of see how they're different. So I've talked about that in another podcast. But her third point was to plan for joy. And I want to share her experience the best that I can remember it, because I think it really illustrates this point well. And then I'll tell you how I've been implementing this idea, and it's been so amazing to plan for joy and experience it. So she talked about how she was planning a wedding recently. I don't know when she got married, but she had been dating someone, living with someone, I think, for like a decade, and they finally decided to get married. And she's like, no one told me how stressful wedding planning was going to be. And so she was getting really stressed out and bogged down in the details of wedding planning. And then at some point she realized, hey, this isn't the energy I want to bring to my wedding day. This stressed out, frazzled, bridezilla kind of energy. And she kind of realized, like, whatever energy I bring to the planning of my wedding day is the energy that I'm going to be in on my wedding day. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Not necessarily. Like, I think most of us would be happy on our wedding day, even if there was stress in the lead up to it. But I definitely saw the point. So what she started to think about was planning for the joy that she would feel walking down the aisle. And I think they made their dog the flower animal. I was going to say boy or girl, I don't know, but she showed a picture of her little animal, her little dog in a tutu, and it was darling. And, all those parts of a wedding, you may kiss the bride, choosing a dress, the invitations, the photos, the flowers, all of that. She wanted to bring a joyful energy to it and just plan like, wow, I am going to savor that moment. I am going to be in that moment and just get all the joy that I can out of it. And when she said that, I was like, that is brilliant. Like, I think about, Christmas is coming up, and I know some people who love Christmas so much, they cannot wait till the day that they feel like they can start listening to Christmas carols and bust out the tree and the ornaments and the decorations and the Christmas candy, or, whatever it is that they look forward to during the Christmas season. And some people who are completely bah humbug. And I've kind of been in both camps, but I think with Christmas coming up and really the whole holiday season, I think that's a great example that I could offer you to think about right now. How are you feeling about the holidays? And especially, let's just go with Christmas. Like, what do you think about when you think about Christmas coming up? Does that sound stressful and expensive? Or is it like, oh my gosh, Christmas is my favorite. I can't wait to go crazy decorating my house and shopping and eating and, doing all of our Christmas traditions, maybe like caroling. I find caroling awkward. My next door neighbor loves Christmas decorating so much that she bought this huge house. And part of the reason was because she decorates 5 rooms for Christmas. I only do my front room, and that's kind of like my capacity for decorating and we don't have a lot of storage either, so I would have nowhere to put all that stuff. So I just kind of carefully select what I like and decorate my front room, and that's kind of all I do. But I used to get really stressed out about Christmas. And so other than the magic of Christmas Day, I think I spent a lot of the season kind of frazzled and hurried and all of that. And then a few years ago, I was just like, I'm just going to embrace all of it, all of Christmas season and all the extra shopping I have to do and all the social events. I mean, that is all fun stuff, but when it kind of piles on at once, it can be a little exhausting. But I started having a whole different experience with Christmas. And now applying this concept, whether you are a Christmas lover or Scrooge, I want you to think about this. What kind of experience would be ideal for you to have at Christmas? Because if you plan for joy for Christmas, like specifically plan when we're doing Christmas pictures or hanging the lights, my husband's nightmare. He always wants to get out and do it when it's still warm. And then if he doesn't, then it becomes this big chore. You know how that goes probably. Decorating the tree, shopping for the gifts. I always want Christmas Day to be really magical. So sometimes I get really stressed out and worried if I'm getting, the perfect gift for somebody, and it gets a little complicated with our size of family. But this year, I want to plan to just enjoy the process. And then the big thing with this is that when I'm in the moment and I can say to myself, oh, this is joy. This is fun. This is Christmas joy, which is kind of its own category. And when you notice that joy in the moment and you breathe it in and take the time to be present with it instead of preoccupied, like, what's the next Christmas task I have to check off the list? If you can just spend time and ask yourself, like, ooh, how do I feel in this moment when we're, setting up the tree, maybe listening to some carols, breaking out all these traditional Christmas things that you might have stored away. I don't know what your Christmas style or traditions are, but if you can right now start looking forward to what kind of Christmas season you have, and then when you come to those moments, of course, you don't have to plan out every moment, but if you know there's a moment that's going to stress you out, or something about the money or the schedule or something like that, I am just going to encourage you to take a look at that right now and just be like, how can I savor Christmas? It only comes once a year. And sometimes it's easy to get so busy that if you want to have like a more religious aspect to your holidays, that takes some planning. And then when the time comes to read special stories or act out the nativity or whatever, if you have sort of planned ahead that I am going to be mentally completely there in that moment, then I promise you can have a better Christmas experience than you've ever had before. In our family, we always do a reading of the nativity story in Luke 2, and we've always had plenty of grandkids, my in-laws' grandkids, to act it out. Now someone's always got a new baby, and now we're on to the grandbabies, and we act that out, and it's so routine that I don't know if I have really enjoyed it as much as I could in the past. Like, it's always fun, but I just think this concept of looking forward to joy is a beautiful concept. And here's the super duper duper magical thing about this. When you start thinking about joy and looking forward to whatever you look forward to, say during the holidays, you can start to feel it right now. When you think about joy, like just talking to you about that nativity that we do with the family and that whole scene that goes on with that, and just everyone's laughing, trying to figure out who's going to be the shepherds and the angels and the baby, and do we have a baby this year, and will they cooperate, and all of those things. I just get tickles in my throat because I'm like, oh, that's actually so sweet and so special. And I'm so grateful that my in-laws have made the effort every single year to make sure we all get together for that experience. And then we have sort of a sharing of our thoughts about Christ after the nativity. And I can already start to feel what that moment could feel like. And this year I can get more out of it because I'm planning ahead to just like, wow, that is so special. I really want to appreciate that. Whoa, I literally had to stop my microphone and gather myself together because I was already like feeling some emotion about that I've never felt before, because I just always kind of like, oh, it's Christmas Eve, let's get over there, and we just kind of do the same thing every year, but that's called a tradition, and those make life special. And even if you have a reason to grieve during the holidays, maybe even thinking about that now and how you want to experience that is something that you could do so that you allow for the time and whatever you need emotionally during that time. And this wasn't meant to be all about Christmas, but I guess I'm using Christmas to bring home this point. And just one more thing, and then I'll tell you how I implemented this recently and how much fun I had with this concept when we went to Hawaii. But just to kind of turn this around to the opposite direction and help you understand what I'm saying about how you can feel emotions in advance, I want you to think about the opposite of Christmas, which might be like having a colonoscopy, right? Like something, even if you've never had one, I think you can probably imagine, or you've heard from others, how dreadful the prep for that truly is. The nap during the actual colonoscopy is amazing. Best nap I've ever had. But the prep was like, even being prepared for it, it was worse than I expected. But I know there's new ways now. I haven't had to have one since my 50th birthday. But my daughter actually is going in for one tomorrow. She's turning 19 tomorrow, and she's having some health issues. So that was the day they could get her in. So that's what we're doing. But imagine if you've had a colonoscopy, or when you're, at that age, or like my daughter, you've got one coming up. Imagine the dread that you feel every single time you think about a colonoscopy, whether you've had one or not. Like every time someone says they're going to get one, I just feel that all over again. So I feel the dread in advance. I feel it, from 5 years out since I've had one. I'm just like, oh, yuck. I never want to do that again. So a couple of points there. One is that I hope you understand what I'm saying, that just as we can feel dread in advance, or every time we think about a certain topic, like maybe you've got a court date coming up or something, every time you think about it, your heart just sinks. We can do the opposite with joy and happiness if we plan for it. And the other thing I would just say there is, when you do have a negative emotion about something that's not even currently happening, maybe it's coming up, or maybe it's in the past, that is a great opportunity for emotional awareness, and to be like, oh, every time I think about that, I just feel that sinking pit of my stomach feeling. Do I want to be thinking and feeling that way every single time, or dwelling there if I don't need to? Those little kinds of thoughts can be so sneaky that we don't even know they're there. I have an example from years ago. A house I lived in had carpet where you walked in the entry from the garage. And eventually we remodeled and got new carpet. And it was only then that I realized that dirty, gross, like strip of carpet where everyone walked from the garage into the kitchen had brought me down just a little bit, giving me that sinking feeling every single time I walked in the house for years, because I didn't notice it until we got the pretty new carpet. I chose green back in the day, and it was a lovely, like, earthy green, and it just refreshed my spirits, where the other one was bringing me down, but I honestly didn't know it. I wasn't tuned in to that feeling, that sinking feeling. It was just kind of there under the surface, And And we all have emotions, good and bad, that are like that are just kind of like humming along under our radar that we could bring to the surface and pay attention to them, whether it's like, say it's anxiety, and you can bring it to your attention, to your full awareness. I know sometimes we just want to smash anxiety down and ignore it and run away from it. But what if we're like, hi, anxiety, what brings you here? Because our emotions always just are trying to get our attention and tell us something, that there's something that we need to think about or process through. And it doesn't have to be as scary and difficult as we make it. And I'm not trying to minimize what anyone goes through with like severe anxiety. But I do know that taking time to address it is kind of the best thing that we can do if we ever want it to go away. But same with happiness. I really believe more of us can experience more happy and positive emotions if we become more aware of those, instead of just going through our day like, wow, what a beautiful fall day. Like, wow, what a beautiful fall day. And take the time to really take it in and just appreciate it, knowing that, you know, fall days don't last forever. Then we can get into scarcity, which is another negative emotion, but just like, oh, how can I enjoy this day more? A walk, a look at the leaves, instead of just going through this day, maybe preoccupied with everything I've got going on. So hopefully you're catching on to what I'm saying and maybe seeing some applications outside of Christmas, or, you know, processing negative emotions like I was just talking about with anxiety. But let me tell you how I implemented this as soon as I heard this. I am always one to implement a good mindset hack. And so on the flight home from Dallas, my husband and I had a trip to Hawaii coming up the very next week. And this was just vacation. A lot of times we travel for work, but this was vacation. And we have been so excited to go to Hawaii, even though we went earlier this year. That was partially work and partially just super fun. And work can be fun too. But anyway, we'd been planning this trip for a while, but we hadn't really planned it. And we had wanted to go to Maui, but because of the fires, we ended up going back to Kauai for the second time. So we knew some spots that we wanted to go that we'd been before, some favorite activities from last time we were there. So we started listing out all our activities we wanted to do. And then because I had just been thinking about this concept of planning for joy, I went back and attached emotions that I wanted to, not that I was going to make myself feel them, but just that I was going to notice that I was feeling them. I was like, what's the emotion that goes along with snorkeling? The first time I ever snorkeled in Hawaii, I was so full of wonder and awe. Like, it's like being in a fish tank. Hopefully a clean fish tank, but you know, the water, the cloudiness or whatever, the water can vary. But the first time I experienced that, I was just overcome with complete wonder, and also just kind of that, like, I'm not sure what the word is for feeling like a kid, but that sense of fun and enjoyment of just experiencing something for the first time. And I absolutely loved it. And that was the thing I probably couldn't wait the most to get back and do again in Hawaii. So I wrote down words like wonder and awe. And we knew that we wanted to see the sunset, because in Hawaii, that's a thing. It's like an event. If you haven't been there, that people will gather to watch the sun go down. And people there are just quiet and almost like, I can't think of a better word than reverent, and it's romantic. And so like I wrote these words down for some of the things that we wanted to do. And then my husband always goes along with all my funny ideas. And I was like, what do you want to feel between us when we're there? And, you know, we had talked through some of the things we wanted to do in Hawaii and what we'd feel like. We love Hawaiian shave ice. And so we're like, oh, that's a feeling of pure delight when you're having Hawaiian shave ice in Hawaii and it's hot and it's like the perfect dessert. It's like a delicacy when you're in Hawaii. So we wanted to experience delight with that. But anyway, then I started thinking about what do I want to feel with my husband? And I wrote down some words like connection, love, romance. And I asked him and he goes, just like fun and playfulness. And I was like, ooh, that's a good one. You get some husband points for that one. And and it's totally true. Like that's a time when we're just like kids. Like on Kauai, there's this sort of hidden beach where a river meets the ocean. And it creates this really interesting water situation. And it's like warm water and kind of a pool or a pond. And then you've got the ocean with all the waves just not too far away. But anyway, there's a couple rope swings there. And we had gone to them last time. And my husband just had the time of his life. He loves water. And he is the happiest human when he can just play in water. And so there are rope swings there. So yeah, that gave us just that feeling of fun and playfulness together. And if you don't know, it is so good for relationships just to play together, whether you're talking about your spouse or your kids, like playing games, just goofing around, hide and seek, anything like that. And with your spouse, it's just super, super bonding. And what was so funny about the rope swings this year, I was so awkward on them. I don't know if something like some of the knots came off or something, but I literally could not lift myself onto this thing. So I just kind of like swung out and plopped in the water. But you know what? I was the only woman of my age out there just trying it and having fun. Like there were other women around, but most of them were not swinging out of the rope swings. It was like my husband and some kids and me. And even though I was completely awkward, it was hilarious. It was just such a joy and something I could never do at home. And so in those moments, I'd be like, oh, what am I feeling? How does it feel? And just like feeling playful, just laughing and feeling the humor and the awesome feelings that creates. It just, the whole thing really comes down to being present, not like, where are we going after this? And, like focusing on other things, but just being fully there in the moment just allows you to really experience those positive emotions. And if you name them and focus in on them for those few minutes that you're in, a situation that creates that kind of emotion, you can just juice more joy out of it. It's like a superpower. It's just the best feeling. And we kept asking ourselves as we were doing different things, like, what are we feeling right now? But I think my favorite moment actually was like the first minute of the first day, which we got there at night and we got to our room and we knew we had an ocean view because we could hear the ocean outside, but we really couldn't see a thing when we got there. But in the morning, when we opened the curtains, we literally just gasped. Like the sun was coming up and we had this perfect oceanfront view in front of the resort. And there was like the sun coming up, so pink clouds, and both sides of this sort of cove where the resort was were framed with really high mountains. And so there was the mountains and the ocean and the clouds and the sand. And it was breathtaking. And my husband opens the curtains and he goes, I think I'm going to cry. Like Hawaii is just his happy place. And of course, it wasn't sad tears. It was just, I don't know what the word is for, like, beauty is not an emotion, but just that feeling of something taking your breath away. And I went to the window and I stood there looking at it, taking it in. And I was like, what is this feeling I feel? It's like an absence of feeling. It's like complete stillness in my body. And, we had nowhere we had to hurry to be. We had nothing to do. There was of course we had things to do, but I mean, nothing we had to get to at a certain time, just our own time and schedule and time away and time together. I couldn't come up with the word until it came to me later in the day that was a feeling of tranquility. You could also call it serenity. And I just don't experience that in my daily life and routine, like maybe sometimes in a moment in a yoga class or something. But it was the most beautiful feeling, and trying to tune into those feelings, like really dial it in and breathe into it. Or I should say maybe breathe it in, breathe into it sounds like, again, something from yoga, if you're familiar with yoga practice. But anyway, and that feeling just stayed with me the whole time, and it makes the whole trip worthwhile. Now, I may sound like a commercial for Hawaii, which if Hawaii wants to ever like contact me and let me be a spokesperson for them, I'm all there for it. But that is not the point. The point is that if you have something coming up, like a trip or Christmas, like we were talking about, even Halloween, kids love Halloween. That's a fun time to just have fun with your kids. Just promise yourself right now to start to be more present with your emotions and even plan for them. Like, even if it's Halloween, just like, oh, I'm going to have so much fun with my kids. We're going to be silly. I'm going to make the best costumes. If you do that kind of thing, if you're super mom like that. But of course, not every day is a trip to Hawaii, sadly enough. But every day is made up of little moments. We all have our morning routines. We all have our evening routines. And sometimes we just rush through those with no mindfulness and just like, I got to get on to the next thing, you know? And if you think about it, most of life is made up of those little moments, those routines. So can we tune in when we're going through our morning routine? And instead of thinking about what's next and I have to hurry, can we just be there and be present for all of it? Whether it's a chaotic morning, getting the kids out the door, even just waking up tired, but just deciding that I'm going to have a good attitude about today, about the morning. And again, I don't want to get into like a toxic positive mode. I'm just saying there are times when we are kind of blah, when we don't need to be, when we could be enjoying our life. You only get one life, moms. And I just want to encourage you to live it happy. And tools like this, where we are more aware of our emotions, emotional awareness is the key. Maybe you've never thought about having positive emotion while doing the laundry and the dishes, but is it possible for you? I'm not sure, but my husband loves laundry. He loves it because it's warm and soft. And there's something I appreciate about like emptying a clean dishwasher or putting my house in order at the end of the day, which is part of my evening routine. I don't just love the order at the end. I love the feeling of like picking things up and putting them where they go. It's very soothing. It's like a feeling of, I don't want to say control, because maybe that has a negative connotation, but it's just me being in my space and creating the atmosphere that I want to wake up to. And those moments can be so special, and you string all those together, and that's what life is made of. So I just want to encourage you, without me getting too sappy or sentimental or whatever, just to look at your days, look at your life. Is there somewhere where you're experiencing a lot of negative emotion that maybe you don't want to, like maybe waking up to your alarm every morning or getting up in the night with babies? Like, do you want to reframe that experience? That getting up to an alarm is a tough one for me. If I'm in a good dream and I've got to wake up to an alarm, that is literally almost painful. But if I can set the intention to wake up happy, or just like at least not resist it, then I can get my day off to a better start. And I'm not going to say that being up in the night with babies isn't hard, because it is. And it can also be a sweet, quiet moment that you spend with your baby that might be hard to find otherwise during the activities of the day. My mother-in-law used to like to spend time with her youngest child in the night, because during the day, with so many kids in their family, somebody always wanted to hold the baby. And so that was kind of her time. And yeah, I know it can be difficult on the other end when you've been up in the night a lot, but you're up in the night anyway. So just ask yourself in all those little moments, how do I want to feel about this? And how can I feel differently? So that's what I have for you today. And just a few little reminders. Like if you are enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, however you do that within your podcast app. Share it. Email me, Rachel@mom-mindset.com. Tell me what you're enjoying. Ask me your questions. You can go on my website, mom-mindset.com, and ask me an anonymous question, and I will answer you on the website on the Ask a Coach. There's lots of ways to get in touch with me. Tell me what you want to talk about, hear about, what you have questions about. And I'm especially interested right now in helping people feel more positive emotions and find more fulfillment in home and family life. And I have one more thing for you, which is I have a book that's a free download that you can get that's just little thoughts from A to Z on different topics and just how to apply mindset principles to all kinds of different things. It's called Mom Mindset A to Z. So you can also get that on my website, mom-mindset.com/book. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Hey Mama, thanks for listening to the show today. If you enjoy the ideas I share on my podcast, but you want some help applying them to your personal situation, I want to invite you to learn more about my coaching program, where I talk to moms on a personal basis through one-on-one coaching and group calls. We can talk about anything from the personal challenges that you're experiencing in marriage or motherhood to the goals and dreams that you have for yourself. To find out more and download a copy of my free book, Mom Mindset A to Z, visit mom-mindset.com. I'd love to see you there.